Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Desert Island Deals. And today we find ourselves in Miami, in Florida. We have an incredibly exciting guest, regularly recognized as having a fundamental impact on Florida's luxury market, the CEO and founder of One Sotheby's International Realty, introducing Miss Mayi de la Vega. Mayi, welcome to the Desert Island Deals show.
Thank you. That was such a warm introduction. Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. Now, first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting us into your wonderful home. I mean, I just cannot get over the view. Where is it that we are today?
We're in Coconut Grove.
Yeah.
A thriving small community, considered really Miami also, and it's just a wonderful, warm neighborhood with it, right off the bay and beautiful views, and so very lucky to live here.
Yeah, and this is an area that you moved to more recently, or this is kind of where you grew up around Miami.
I grew up in Miami. I raised my children and lived for about 20 years in a small private community called Coco Plum.
Okay.
Which I am going to be returning to.
Oh, very nice. Oh, so you're losing this view, or are you going to be?
I'm gonna lose part of the view. We're going. Decided to go back to the roots and build. The family keeps growing, and so we're gonna build a home there. And I'm very excited because I lived there for 20 years, and there's a lot of memories, and the kids, used all the facilities and just had a really great time there. So we're ready.
Well, look, I know that family's hugely important to you, and I'm sure it's something that we'll cover at some point. But before we get started, I suppose it's just useful for those outside of the US or the Sotheby's network to understand a bit more about who you are, your background, and then we'll get into our questions. So I suppose we'll start with when you first arrived here in the US.
I arrived in the U.S. with my father and my stepmother. My mother was not allowed to leave Cuba at the time.
Oh, right.
So there was a little bit of separation anxiety there for me for a little while. And I think that fuels a lot of who I am today, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so we arrived and, my father went to work in a factory and just worked his way up with the great, with living the American dream, which everybody, aspires to that American dream. And so we started with nothing and just built our way up gradually through the years. He was able to work his way out of that factory that he started at, and shortly thereafter became like the general manager for an aerospace company. Fast forward a few years, he was in the position to start from scratch a company, which was an aerospace aluminum distribution company. And that was about a 15-year journey for him. And I was part of that journey with him. I encouraged him to start it. I was always that entrepreneur.
I heard about this. You had some involvement in convincing him to...
I was very instrumental in encouraging him and giving him the confidence that he could do this, that he could become an entrepreneur and, control his destiny and his future and start. He had all the contacts, he had all the relationships in Europe, actually. And so fast forward 15 years, and here we are with a very successful, thriving business. Sort of immigrants that started with nothing and, built their way up.
That's what is interesting. You were saying, you came here with nothing. Did it feel like you had nothing?
Oh, it felt like nothing.
You were fully aware, even at that age, that because was it a drastic change in life?
It was a huge, drastic change in life, and I think that I remember that we would walk to the Winn-Dixie because we couldn't afford the bus both ways.
Right. Which way do you get the bus back? There or?
Well, with the groceries on the way
that
back.
makes more sense. Yeah.
We took the bus on the way, and it was cold. I remember back then it was like, it was we arrived. I think it was November, December, and it was. I remember it being so small and just being really cold, and remember not having enough money to buy a mattress and a box spring. So my brother would sleep on the box spring, and I would sleep on the mattress until things improved. Yeah. So it was great lessons.
Did that situation change relatively quickly, or was it
No,
several years?
that situation changed relatively quickly.
Yeah, as your father found
As my
work.
father, my father was fortunate. He went to, I think the school was called Roston or something in Cuba, and he came here speaking English.
Okay.
So that was really good for him to be able to speak the language, and so he was determined to succeed, and he did.
And I know that you've talked about him before as being a really important mentor in your life. It's interesting that you took it upon yourself, right, to motivate him to do this. Was there doubt in his mind about, or was it more to do with he'd found security? Because obviously it's such a drastic change from where things were to then have quite a successful life running the business that he was for somebody else. Was it
I
fear
think,
of?
I think we get comfortable. And I think there's always fear in, taking that next step and maybe losing it all.
Yeah.
And putting at risk his family and everyone's well-being.
Yeah.
To be able to take this step forward. And so I did encourage him a lot. And I said to him, you've done it for someone else. Why can't you do it for yourself? You certainly have the talent. You have the reputation. And you're going to do this. And I really was his biggest cheerleader all along.
How old were you when this conversation was going on? You were studying.
I was studying. I was still at the university studying, which I started then doing part-time to be able to go once he launched and help him.
Right.
So he was out there doing multiple jobs as I was, running the forklift, coming in, taking orders, talking to clients, putting on a tie, and then going back out there at night and trying to make ends meet and trying to make everything happen. So it was a fun time. It was a big learning experience for me, and working alongside him taught me invaluable lessons in life.
And we'll get into your journey with Sotheby soon, but it's interesting to me. I mean, maybe that fear that you say exists in pretty much everyone, right? When it's about whether you're starting a new business or you're beginning a new career, and it's about having the confidence to make things happen. Obviously, I'm aware that people thought you were making a crazy decision when you were trying to purchase the license for Sotheby's, right?
Yes.
But so whether it was convincing your father to do something or to start a business or knowing in yourself that this was the right thing to do, you've always had that belief in yourself and other people as well. That comes across.
I think that's pretty accurate. I think that I just knew. My heart knew. My heart knew that there was a void in the South Florida. At the time, it was only South Florida that we were focused on. And I realized there was a void for a luxury brand. And I just knew enough. I think that I had the emotional intelligence to understand also what was needed and how to go about putting the pieces of the puzzle together to get people to believe in me, to believe in the brand, to believe in that we could create this incredible company backed by the Sotheby's International Realty Network.
I can see you still get excited.
I do get
thinking about
excited.
it, now. It's what a special moment. And we'll take it back a little bit, because obviously when you're looking to purchase the South Florida license from Sotheby's, you've already got real estate experience. So between helping your father run this company and then purchasing the Sotheby's license, what was the real estate journey to get you there?
So I started after 15 years of successfully running the company alongside my father, we had an opportunity from a Swiss multinational company to get this. Intercontinental Metals was the name. That company was bought out by a Swiss multinational company.
Okay.
And when that happened, I said, well, what am I going to do now? I ran it for them for a little bit, and my kids were small, and it was a lot of travel involved, and I wanted to be home more, and I wanted to be accessible to them. And so I decided then that I'm such a people person. I love people. I love architecture. I love beautiful things in life generally. And I thought, well, gee, I can do real estate. That should be so easy. It's just connecting people and learning the market. And I lived in a great community, and my kids went to all the right schools. So I figured, I have a great network. I can do this. And so I started not knowing anything about real estate, and just really from the ground up. I remember my first contract, I ran to my managing broker and said, how do I do this? I've never written a contract before.
This is your first ever?
This is my first ever deal. And she says, don't worry, I'm going to help you through it. And somehow I finagled my way. with a lot of coaching behind the scenes on how to handle all the objections and all the, you know,
Do you remember what the property was?
it was a lot. It was a lot that was for sale in
Okay.
Snapper Creek Lakes, and way back in the day, they're selling now for millions of dollars. Back in the day, I think I put the deal together. It was like $600,000. That was a lot for me. It was a lot of money then.
And you were introducing the buyer, or you were representing?
I
the
was
seller?
representing the buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did you come across a client like that at that stage? That was your
Just
that was
friends.
through
It
your
was my
network?
sphere. It's
Okay.
always about in real estate. The more you work your sphere,
Mm-hmm.
and the more you understand how to leverage that network that you have built through the years, the more successful you become. So it was really someone that knew me and that knew also that I had been very successful at what I did before.
And so even though you didn't have necessarily the real estate experience at that point, it was about the trust. Essentially, that was the
Always
thing
about trust.
Yeah.
Always about
even
trust.
to this day.
Even to this day.
Yeah.
Always about trust, always about integrity, and always about keeping your word.
Okay. So I mean, I couldn't agree more. And these are themes that we see coming up continuously. And I guess they're relevant in life as well, right? I mean, to be trustworthy, to be honorable, to work with integrity, these are key. But certainly, I think there is an element of that which is particularly important with real estate. And you've mentioned this yourself in the past, when people are trusting you with some of the biggest transactions of their life, their greatest assets, buildings that they've created memories in, that they've created families
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely.
So you start. Which brokerage did you begin your career at?
I began my career at Coldwell Banker.
Okay, and the real estate landscape then was Coldwell Banker was the biggest.
I think
brokerage?
at the time it was pretty big, especially in the community that I lived, which was Coral Gables. I started out of the Coral Gables office, and there was a great broker manager there that I liked a lot, and she was very encouraging. And from there, I was already living in this community, Cocoa Plum, that I lived in for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And there was someone there that was the leader, the market leader. And I thought, it would be great to align myself with someone that has inroads in this community because I want to build my presence. And I remember her asking me, well, what did you sell last year? What did you do before she hired me? And I said, oh, I don't know. I think I did like $1 million. She looked at me like, $1 million? Like, well, I think you could do a lot better than that. I said, yeah, I think I can. And within 2 years, I became her top producer.
Really?
In the company, yeah.
And that was as much to do with drive as it was to do with the network that you had around you.
I think it had to do with the network. I think it had to do with work ethic. I was willing to do what everyone else was not willing to do. I was willing to work every Saturday and Sunday. I was willing to sit at open houses for hours on end because I was meeting everybody in the community.
Yes.
And they took a liking to me, and I just kept following up with them and building that database. So, a lot of times when agents ask me about, oh, I don't want to sit at an open house, I'm like, you never know who you're going to meet. And that's how I built my entire business in Cocoa Plum. And at one point, we had over, 68% market share in that community, which was pretty significant. And
right, yeah.
So I think that it always goes back to the basic principles that we all apply regardless of our industry. I think it's a universal, sort of way to do business or whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether you're selling cars or whether you're selling yachts or you're selling real estate or you're a professor at a university. It doesn't matter. There's certain principles that you always should adhere to.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that certainly has come across with the people that we've been speaking to so far. There are characteristics that are, ubiquitous throughout people who work in, and I think particularly in the world of luxury real estate as well. I know it's important across all sectors. I'm interested to know. So you fast became the top broker. Was that important to you to be the number one, or was it that just a byproduct of?
I think that was a byproduct of my dedication and my passion for what I was doing, which is I'm still passionate about what I do today.
I've got it.
I love Sotheby's International Realty. I love Sotheby's International Realty. I always say that I could not have probably achieved the level of success that I have achieved in Florida's East Coast without the support of the Sotheby's International Realty brand.
And it's worth mentioning at this stage, you're now over 30 offices across Florida with 1,300 advisors working for you. If we look back to 2008, when you secured the license, 2008, 2009, was that something that you had in mind that was, or was it just about establishing? You saw the space for a luxury real estate group in Florida, and was it in your mind that this is something you wanted to keep growing, or it was just
Honestly, no. It just evolved organically.
yeah.
And I think when you do things with the right intention, for the right reasons, things just, and you're consistent in what you're doing, I think things just evolve. And I think for me, it was about building, first of all, understanding what I had available to me to build upon. And I think the brand exudes luxury, has a global presence, and South Florida is ripe and ready for that. And I saw that. I saw that, and I just said, I'm going to do this. And the first few years, what I did mostly is travel to all of the different offices and affiliates throughout our network to meet the owners, to meet the managing brokers, and to tell them that we were here for any referrals or for, to help their clients. And I think that in itself cemented my position within the organization, within the brand.
Yeah.
I think when I look back in the day and I thought about all the thought process that went into awarding this franchise to me in South Florida, I bet you that they probably thought at the time, well, she's been a star agent, but she really doesn't have the operational experience. Does she really have the operational experience to run and build and grow? And I look back today at that first day when I went up to Parsippany, New Jersey, and sat with Philip White and Mike Good and the entire team, their IT people. And I realized back then that they probably looked at me and thought, well, she has some big dreams and aspirations. Is she going to really carry this out? And I think that, I think I surprised them along the way.
Yeah. Did you surprise yourself as well, or?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It's,
because it grew bigger than you
it
even
grew
expected.
and it grew and it was just sort of like, we started with 30 people in a tiny office where we'd have to move cars because there wasn't enough parking space for all the agents to park. Yeah. So the receptionist had two roles. She had to be an attending parking valet and also a receptionist because I couldn't afford to pay, a valet full time. So basically, we started with 30 agents.
And now you've got enough for one shop each. That period then, when you're Coldwell Banker, you're becoming a name within the real estate community, and you've spotted this opportunity for a luxury brand to enter the Florida market. Was there ever any other opportunity besides Sotheby's, or was that a sort of laser focus for you?
I was so laser focused. I wanted that brand more than I wanted anything in the entire world.
Really? It was, and because
it was love at first sight, and I knew in my heart that I needed to do this.
And where had you come across the brand previously? Was it already in?
It was here, but it was not being run effectively. And I think that they were looking to replace the affiliate they had. Because he was really pretty much doing it for his own benefit and not really with the mindset of growing and the company. And so I think when I heard that they were looking to replace that individual, I said, oh my goodness, how do I get to these people at corporate?
Isn't that a prime example though? Like, was this something that came to you through the grapevine, or were you in conversation with people outside?
No, I started searching. I started finding out who was in charge of the region. Yeah. How was I able to get in contact with this person? Then I emailed, I called, and then I started calling local people that knew of this. And then I heard that other people in other offices were being interviewed, and I thought, I better run. I better put the pedal to the metal because I'm going to lose out on this one if I don't, hurry up.
And so, I mean, that's another prime example of like your network. I mean, I've heard this phrase, your network is your net worth, right? And it's this idea that if you weren't investing time in the network that you had, if you didn't know the people to speak to, if you didn't have the drive to chase those conversations, I mean, we certainly wouldn't be here speaking today about this. And I'm talking like that's the pinnacle of your career now. Congratulations. One of the questions that we get into is we've sort of covered your first deal with the most complicated transaction that you've been in. I've got to assume that is the purchasing of the Sotheby's license, or am I?
That was for sure, by far, at that point in time.
Yeah.
And probably till today, one of the most complicated transactions because there was, when you read their franchise agreement, it's about that big, all very one-sided to their benefit.
Right.
So just navigating that was difficult. Understanding what I was getting myself into and the personal guarantees that I had to sign and pretty much putting everything on the line for this. So there was no room for error. There was no room for mistakes. It was like, we're going forward. We're going to make this happen no matter what. Failure is not an option. It never is in my book.
And did you have any help when you were, but I mean, beside lawyers, I mean, obviously you have to get a lawyer, but was there anyone who is helping you through this?
I think there's several people that were very encouraging and were very instrumental in giving me the confidence that I could do this, that I had been very successful as a top agent. And then I had started from becoming a top agent in the development where I lived and in the community where I lived, which was Coral Gables. I had started my own small boutique firm, which was called Stewart de la Vega. There's a little pause there that we didn't talk about. And that was going on for about 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And
so you'd had experience of, obviously you've had your experience as COO of your father's company.
Yes.
You've then had experience of running a small agency. So it wasn't entirely new, this idea of building a brand.
Building the brand was new.
Right, okay.
Building the brand was new because that is why I went to them, because I knew I needed a brand. I knew I needed, there was so much global connectivity that I said, well, how do I market to these folks that are in Hong Kong and London and, Portugal and, everywhere in the world? Pick a country, any country, we're there. 77 countries, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So how do I get to all these people? How does this work? And they had other organizations that were, sort of saying that they were doing it, but not truly to the extent that Sotheby's was involved. They had actual affiliates that were operators in these markets that you could actual people that you could connect with and talk to. And it wasn't just they were saying this, but they were really doing it. And so during that time, but it was quite different running this small boutique firm with 30 agents.
Yep.
And at the time, I was still selling a lot of real estate. So I was running the business, but I needed to sell, just like I needed to sell when I started Sotheby's.
Yeah.
Some of the agents will say, well, why is she selling? She's the owner. And I'm like, well, I'm selling because I got to keep us afloat here. I got to put every dollar back into the company. So I did that for quite a long time. There was a huge sacrifice. Nothing comes easy in life.
No.
There's always a give and take. There's always a sacrifice. And I was willing to sacrifice. I was willing to sacrifice everything in my life to make this succeed. Everything. And I mean everything.
And how did you handle that pressure? I mean, is that something that a lot of sleepless nights? And
a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of nights that, how am I going to meet payroll? Remember also that we started I started negotiations with them in July. I believe we had a hurricane in the middle of all of this. And then we continued the negotiations. And then there was a financial crisis in 2008, September, October. Boom, everything was like out the window. And then I signed the document December 11th, I think it was, of 2008. And I was my first operational month was January. My first operational month, was January of 2009. Yeah. So I lost money in 2009, 2010, 2011, and I had to sell real estate because every dollar I made, I put right back into the company. I lived with like the bare minimum, and on credit cards, by the way, for a while. I bet. I had to do it. There was no other way.
And you talk of sort of failure is not an option. How does that, is when failure is not an option, does this mean work harder? You just have to work harder when it's getting tougher.
Too.
Work smarter.
You have to work hard. You have to outwork. I always believe that you have to, it's like a work ethic and whatever it means to you in whatever industry you're in. But I see it over and over again in multiple industries that work ethic is critical. The dedication, the consistency, the resilience, the ability to withstand and be able to understand that you will fail along the way, but that's not going to stop you from getting to the end. So you're going to have hurdles along the way, many, many hurdles, financial hurdles, emotional hurdles. There's so many things that are going to come in your way and try to just say, you can't do this. but you've got to know you can do this.
And that's through experience, because you've had hardships previously. I'm not talking about just growing up, but in your father's business, in your smaller real
Absolutely.
estate.
I think I don't think I've had like this like life where I went to school and my parents were paying for it. No, I went to school at night to college, and I paid my own way, and I had 2 jobs, and I was it's been a lot of hardship along the way.
But these have all been learning experiences.
They've been lessons. They've been
they
great
make you
lessons,
resilient,
and they make you so resilient.
Yeah. I'm interested to know. So 2009, you start operating, and you'd seen this space for a luxury brokerage in Florida. What was the market like in Florida at that time? Because I'd like to also understand about how that relationship with international Sotheby's offices, how that developed as you developed one Sotheby's in South Florida. So if we just think about the what was the lay of the land in 2009 when you started out? Was this a high value market at the time?
It's always been, Coral Gables has always been a high value market. I had no penetration in one of the highest markets, which was Gables Estates.
Right.
Coco Plum was the other one. Journey's End, all those, communities that are waterfront communities, along what we call Area 41, which is Coral Gables. So I think that it's always been a luxury market, but not to the extent it is today.
So when you started out, there's luxury and high-end real estate, but you felt there wasn't a brand that was specifically servicing that market in the way that it needed to be.
No, there was no brand, in my opinion, that was global and servicing that market.
Yep.
Or really taking care of any of the referral network opportunities that we have within our brand to refer business out to other markets.
Okay.
So I think it was, it were tough times. 2009, there was a lot of negativity around real estate. I mean, remember there were so many foreclosures going on.
Yeah.
So there were people that were just surviving based on selling foreclosures. We never did that. We stayed focused on the luxury part of the business. And I say today that we always transact. If there is a slow market, some people see it as an opportunity. There's always opportunities in real estate. So depending on where you are in your life or what you're looking to do, if you're looking to get married, or if you're getting divorced, or if somebody passes, or there's a new birth in the family, like it just depends. So there's always an opportunity to transact.
And so with the international network that came with the Sotheby's brand, in 2009, were you? I know you mentioned you spent a lot of time going out to introduce yourself to the network. How did that manifest in terms of referrals from the network? Is this something that you've seen grow increasingly over time, or was there an instant impact of, we can list this property for sale and I'm going to be able to advertise this in the Middle East or in Europe?
I think it helped a lot for our agents.
For securing listings?
Okay. I think the fact that I was out there, they were able to talk about it. I remember way back in the day, I would bring pictures of my attending, whether I was going to Italy to welcome our affiliate Lodovico in Italy. And those were things that I think helped the connectivity and make it real.
Yes.
It wasn't just a name, but we knew who the owner was in Italy. We knew who was the managing director. We know when Dubai acquired their first office, and I was very instrumental in convincing George Azar, who has been immensely successful, of whom I'm so very proud in Dubai. He now acquired London, and so he's been like, I feel so proud of all he's accomplished. And I remember him talking to me and saying, well, what about this royalty fee I have to pay? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is nothing compared to what you're going to get back, and how you're going to be able to build, and how you're going to be able to establish a presence in this luxury space. And here we are, 10, 12 years later, and he's been immensely successful.
He has ruffled some feathers in London in a very good way.
In a very good way.
He's turned that.
I was so impressed. I went to London. I spent a week there.
Yeah.
We have a managing director that he was gracious enough to allow us to work out of his office. So we collaborate a lot on a lot of things. And I met his team, and his entire team was just absolutely spectacular.
He has taken the cream of the crop
The
in
cream
London.
of the crop,
Yeah,
and honestly, he's doing such a terrific job.
He's made it work. You know,
He's made it work.
This idea of the self-employed realtor model, which is obviously the only model in the US and internationally as well. It's a new concept in the UK, and you know there are lower fees there, which is a part of the issue. And a lot of people thought that this couldn't work, and he came in and he was very bullish. I mean,
no, I'm so proud of all his accomplishments, and I have the utmost respect for him. He's a visionary,
yes,
and he's a great businessman, and I just couldn't be prouder of, you know, and I feel really proud that I got on a plane and I went by myself. I flew to Qatar and then to Dubai to welcome him to our network.
Yeah.
That's how important I thought it was. And he was so gracious with me and so attentive at the time. And I don't know if he knew how successful he was going to be. And I think the brand truly plays a role in this. And I don't want to, you know, in as well as we've done, and we've had their backing. And I think that's been really important.
Yeah, of course.
And then you innovate within what you already have, and you make it better, and you come up with amazing ideas, but there's a platform there to rely upon. And not everyone within the network is our size, and they do use a lot of the tools that the network gives them. So I see George, and I see so many other success stories. You know, I'm very fortunate to be a part of a small group that's called the Brain Trust, and it's probably like the top 10 companies within our network.
Yeah.
And these companies, whether we're talking about Premier International Realty in the west coast of Florida that's led by Budge Husky, or Scott Weber in Denver, or, you know, Deirdre and Pat Peterson in Daniel Gale Sotheby's, or the guys in Arizona, you know, and Jay Cooper in Austin, and Robbie Briggs and Ross in, you know, in Dallas, in Texas. It's just, it's a think tank of all these great operators that come together, and we share best practices. And I love going to all those meetings. We usually meet twice a week, and we learn so much. Twice a year.
Twice a year.
In person. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's really dedicated.
No. We try to have calls like, you know, every quarter or every,
it's a continuous conversation.
It's a continuous conversation, but we share so much, and we learn so much from each other, because everyone brings something different to the table. We all have different talents. We're all blessed in different ways. And some are great communicators, and others are great operators, and others are great marketers. So everyone leans on one another, and I've been really fortunate to be a part of that.
That focus you have on going to meet new shops, when a new office opens somewhere and you want to go out there and personally meet them, how much of that is about you feel that as an ambassador of the brand of Sotheby's, that you're sort of beholden to other people to go out there and welcome them to it, or is that just something that comes naturally to you? You're sort of
No, it comes naturally to me, but I've seen some of our current advisors that have taken the time to go out there and meet and attend networking events, and I see how their business grows. I see how they're now known in the network. And way back in the day, we relied a lot upon our referral director, or we relied upon the incoming referrals. But today we're seeing that these referrals are going broker to broker. And the more brokers that go out there, they just get the referrals directly. And that makes me so happy, because you get back what you put in. And I always tell them, it's kind of like an annuity. Think of it as something you're investing in, that you're going to have to put in a little time and effort, and it's not going to pay back immediately, but it will eventually.
This is good, because we're leading on to another section of the podcast here, where we talk about a significant transaction. Now, I'm well aware that the purchasing of the license is the most significant thing that's happened in your real estate career. I'd be interested to know, is there a significant sale or purchase of a property for a client that you felt pushed that Sotheby's momentum forward for you, or was there the securing of a new development or anything like that when you were opening up and you were one office, maybe you're getting to your second, and you're really breaking ground in the community here? Was there one deal that you?
There was one deal. that I can say came about because of my son Daniel's relationship with one of his high school friends, Brandon Koff, and Brandon worked for David Edelstein, who was the developer of the W South Beach residences.
Right.
And they had hired a local real estate company, a very well-respected local real estate company, whom I admire and respect tremendously. And at the time, obviously, because they had done the most of the sales initially when they launched, then the market crumbled.
Right.
And they were looking, there's always like the grass is always greener on the other side. So they were looking for someone to replace this company. Not because they were not a great company, just because I think it was the timing of the market and they wanted to change. And so I was interviewed by, I was so intimidated at the time. I was like, okay, I've got to go to New York and meet this big time developer. What is this Cuban girl doing in New York? Like, oh my goodness gracious. And he invited me to this private club, and the Core Club, I think it was. And we sat there and we sat in a room, and he just kind of interrogated me. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, they're going to fail her. And I think when I left, he says, you have the job. And I think he related to me because he came from humble beginnings as well. And he knew that he had built everything, by himself. And that's how we ended up getting the contract for the W South Beach residences.
What felt, was there a greater pressure on that meeting with Sotheby's to get the license, or that deal that you knew if you secured this would really establish the brand and give you the breathing space to build? Was there?
I think I would have to say Sotheby's International Realty negotiation, because without that I wouldn't have even been
there.
Sitting with him. I think he knew and was enamored with the brand and knew that we had a global presence. We traveled to Hong Kong. We traveled throughout our network to try to promote. We had numerous events at the W inviting affiliates. And so...
That's been a great feeling, no?
It was a great feeling.
The brand has really got my back here.
Absolutely. And I think also, I had no idea, truthfully. I had a little bit of an idea, but not really. I had never really run a development before.
Right.
So this is my first development. I'm like, okay, well, failure's not an option. How are we going to make this work?
Yeah.
And so, we did well. We sold quite a bit of real estate there for them, and we also converted a lot of the existing contracts to close. And I had a great team, and he had, we had Brandon there, and we had, a great sales director, Katie, that was with us, that stayed, throughout this whole time, and so it was fun. It was like a lot of fun for me to. I was so proud. It was really a proud moment in my life. And he always says, "Don't forget, I gave you that first start with that first development."
Is there anything that still makes you nervous when you're like that way that you felt maybe going to the Sotheby's license meeting or that meeting with the developer? Is there anything nowadays that makes you nervous when you're, I don't know, in any other thing that you're doing these days, or are you just, is it all self-confidence now?
I think that every day I feel so blessed in so many ways and so fortunate to have that brand by my side, and also the One Sotheby's brand, because we're a brand also, and we happen to be side by side with them, but I think we've done tremendous amount of innovative things with our marketing, with our team, with our executive team, with our growth team, with all aspects of our business. So we've really so I feel proud. So every day and every moment is sort of a reflection of that day, and it continues onward. It's a feeling that really doesn't ever go away.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. And I mean, it's it's self-apparent of what you've achieved and what you've done. And I mean, of course, it must be waking up in the morning thinking, "My God, this is incredible."
We have a lot of challenges too. I mean, making it sound like it's all fun and games.
Oh,
but
no doubt.
Tons of challenges every day. I mean, we just, the real estate industry is in constant change.
Yeah.
And I always say the only constant thing in life, I always say this, is change.
Yeah.
You better adapt. You better know how to pivot. You better know how to just ride out the wave, because there's going to be so many coming at you, especially in the real estate industry. And also managing all these different personalities. I mean, real estate agents are quite a handful
Yes.
sometimes. So it's not easy to be able to navigate and be all things that they want you to be, because you've got to be their coach and you've got to be their mentor and you've got to provide the right marketing platform and you've got to make sure that you're giving them what they want, because there's somebody next door that is willing to do it too. So it's a competitive business.
Yeah, even getting to the the top of your game, the being revered as somebody who is
Absolutely.
pushing that market. I mean, to maintain
Yeah.
is almost as difficult as getting there.
Yeah.
I guess, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Mayi, it's it's clear in the career that you've had. I realize there have been ups and downs, like anything, peaks and troughs. But would you say that there's one instance that maybe is something that late at night when you're thinking things through, you think, ah, God, and it's one that you could frame as the one that got away?
Yes, many. So, sometimes when I'm asked that question in a different way,
Hmm.
not the one that got away, but there is a piece of property that I had purchased in the community that I lived in. It was a vacant lot, and I was going to build my house.
Okay.
And I was able to get financing for it. I gave a down payment and I was able to get financing for it. And I had absolutely no reason to sell this vacant lot.
Mhm.
I probably bought this lot back in the day for about $300,000. And it's probably worth about, I don't know, 7 million now. So
Lost
that
already.
one got away. But I think the real lesson is about understanding the importance of, if I have one regret
Mhm.
of things that got away, is not buying enough real estate throughout my career.
Mhm.
It's easy for me to say that now because I can buy it.
Mhm.
But back in the day, I was so busy putting my money all back into the company that I didn't have that disposable income
No.
to say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to buy, you know, this commercial property or this shopping center or this home and remodel it.
Mhm.
Because all my energy and all my savings and all my money went into building One Sotheby's International Realty.
Mm.
So it's easy for me now to look back and say, well, I wish I could have, I should have,
Mhm.
but I couldn't at the time.
No.
But maybe, just as determined as I was to make this network and this organization grow, I could have done the same for that portfolio that I had
Yeah.
and really focus more on acquiring more real estate. And that's an advice that I think I would love to give any viewers or anyone that is in our field.
Mhm.
There's no greater way to wealth
Yeah.
accumulation than to buy real estate. Even if you buy one small property a year and you rent it out and then you buy another one, it could be, a very small little apartment, a small duplex, a small, whatever.
Yeah.
Just make that investment, because I think in time, as you years pass, you have this incredible real estate portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fortunately, I started doing this at my son's urging.
Okay. Here
Probably
in
here,
Miami.
here in Miami, and
Okay.
along Florida's East Coast, I've bought real
Okay.
estate as well. So we've together bought some real estate, and now I'm happy that I have that to fall back on, because it's an asset that continues to appreciate, and it kind of weathers like most storms.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I got in a little late, but I did get into the game.
But you've also, I mean, in many ways, then you've ended up with the best of both, right? Because we were talking about this earlier. I used the phrase off camera. We were saying that, the importance of Sotheby's and One Sotheby's to you as a brand that you've built. And this is something that you've built, whether by on purpose or as a sort of byproduct of the way that you've worked. It is essentially in your image. I mean, this company is an embodiment of your values, right? And so you've still ended up with this, and now you're on the investment and that sort of increase of wealth generation through investment in real estate. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself, right?
Okay, I'll take it.
Can I ask, the one element in One Sotheby's, did that come with the brand when you purchased it, or this is your
No,
own?
no, they didn't want to give me that name because they thought it was a very elite name and,
Right.
sort of one. Okay, so you're the one. So it came because there was the important building in New York City. I was reading this book and I think it was called 157
Mhm.
or one something, one Park Avenue. I don't
Yeah.
remember, but it had to do with, and I just identified with the name, with one,
Okay. And what did it mean to you at the time when you were doing it?
that I was going to be number
You were
one.
going to be number one. Yeah, yeah. Because we talked about this, right? I suppose that we mentioned that being the top salesperson, that recognition necessarily wasn't something that you were aiming for, but it was a byproduct of the work that you did. But actually, when you were purchasing the brand, being the top company was then important to you. Whereas maybe being the top, recognize the top salesperson was like, well, that's just because I'm great at what I do. Whereas it was important to you that Sotheby's became recognized as the number one luxury broker in Florida.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Okay. I made that easy. That was a yes or no question. Um, Thinking of again real estate then. So we've talked about opportunities that you feel you've missed out on. Is there a piece of real estate that's consistently um, had the most significance to you? Is there a most significant property in your life?
Hmm. So I love the ocean, the bay, the water, the sound of the water, the color of the water.
Mm-hmm.
I just love being around the ocean. So I think it's not a property, but it's an asset, a depreciating asset at that. But I would say that something that's really important to me is my boat.
Oh, okay.
And, I started out with a really tiny little boat that we'd not, we'd cruise around the bay and we'd stop for lunch. And so just being around the water all the time has
Mm-hmm.
been really important for me. So I think that is the one thing that I truly love and enjoy. I love being on the boat, on the water, regardless of its, a 28-foot boat and we're fishing or,
Mm-hmm.
just cruising. On a nice size yacht. It's just, it really appeals to me. So I think that is for me
The most
the
important.
most important.
And is there an element of getting off the land is also escaping the 24/7 nature of the work that you do? Is that,
I think so. I think that, well, now with Starlink and communications, you're kind of connected any day, anytime. It's like, it's really hard to get away. It's really hard to get away when you have a type A personality and things are moving and you've got to be there.
yeah.
So it's tough to get away, but it's kind of like the one place, like for me is like when I go, let's say, to the Exumas and I
Mm.
see those beautiful waters and there's like 50 shades of blue in those waters. You
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and it's one color, and at sunset it's a different color, and it just fills my soul. Like, and I'm truly a water person, so I really enjoy being around the water and swimming. And
Are you able to switch off when you're in these places? Like, is that something that you have an ability to do
yes,
naturally? Okay.
yes,
So and
I've
that's
worked on it.
yeah, you've had to
Trust
work
me,
on this
I've
to like
worked a lot.
yeah,
I meditate. I try to meditate every night.
yeah,
I'm always trying new apps on the phone.
yes,
I read a lot. So I really think it's important to find that balance
hmm
because, I don't have it on today, but I'm wearing that Aura ring, which I find fascinating because it kind of tells you, like, it even tells you the level of stress. I can measure my day
yeah.
and look at it and say, oh, wow, I just had a really stressful day. Like,
Mhm.
how am I going to, you know,
Did it take the ring to tell you? Like, are you so
yes.
unaware of
Sometimes I'm going so fast and
that
I'm doing
you don't have
multiple things at the same time that I'm not even aware because I'm not even feeling it. I'm just
you just
kind of
yeah
doing. And
you're
I'm
just used
just,
to it by now.
yeah, I'm
It's
used to it by now.
yeah.
So, yeah. So I think having that awareness
hmm
every day of the importance of balance in your life. I think we need to balance, and we need to understand that me time is important.
hmm
And lately I've been really understanding the importance of having a more consistent sleep routine, because sleep, I'm very much into wellness and
Yeah.
longevity and
Yeah.
all these things they're doing with peptides and supplements, and I love that entire world of wellness.
Yeah.
And every time you read about it, you understand the importance of just disconnecting from that blue light,
Mhm.
few hours before bed. And so I've gone back to reading, and I'm not doing Instagram all night like I used to, because you kind of get swept into it, and you keep swiping and swiping, and it's just so much fun, and you're seeing this, and so I'm like, no, enough.
I
Like,
know.
you've got to stop.
I know as well. This is something that you've integrated into your workforce as well with the breathers one.
Breathe as one. We did a great series with this incredible coach,
Yeah.
Fahim, that I love, and he did a lot of work with us, and we did yoga classes, and that's something that I want to do more in 2025.
Yeah.
Is helping everyone find that balance, helping everyone in the organization understand that work is great and making money is wonderful, but if your life is not together, if you don't feel that you are balancing your life to the best of your ability. And there will be times that you can't.
Mhm.
But I think it's really important to find that balance. And it's just going to make you that much more successful at the end.
I was going to say that because, firstly, I think that's a really important message to come from the CEO, right? Because if you, you know, there are managerial types where it's graft, 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 and it's you have to be in after, after state in after me, or whatever it may be, or first in last out, and it never ends, and that becomes the kind of the culture of the company. And actually, if the culture of the company is focused on success and the core values you talked about before of integrity and morality, and doing things the right way, but if it then is combined with a message of like, look, taking care of yourself will actually make you a better entrepreneur, a better business person.
Absolutely. It will make you a better business person, because a lot of times you need to be able to step back to analyze a problem, or to be able to face a situation
Hmm.
and not be reactive, but really take that situation in, understand what they're trying to communicate, and then be able to have a few seconds to react properly, or a few days to really come up with the right answer. So I think I think finding that balance is really important. And I think one of the things that I'm really proud of stuff in our organization is building a culture around that, building a culture of wellness and customer service and gratitude. And I'm actually working right now on a script that is going to kind of take us to that next level of customer service,
Hmm.
which we think we're there now,
Yep.
but we're never really there. There's always room to grow. There's always room to do better. And that quest of finding continuous, what's the next best thing, what's,
Hmm.
that inquisitiveness of just understanding that some people somewhere in the world are doing this better than you are,
Hmm. Hmm.
in different industries. Actually, the book that I just read is a total different industry, has nothing to do with real estate,
Right.
but that was so inspiring for me. So from that, I want to build this culture
Hmm.
and be able to continue to inspire others to find that balance and to understand that, um, and it's hard in real estate sometimes, because you're as good as your last deal, and then you're on the hunt
Yeah.
all the time. So it's sometimes easier said than done, because think about it, a lot of people, you know, don't have the luxury to just sit back and wait for that. They're always hunting for that next deal, because they've got to put food on their table. They've
Yeah.
got a family to feed.
Mhm.
So it's finding that balance, and it's not easy. So
Sometimes I
I want
guess
to be a source for
it's
that.
finding the opportunity to do these things, maybe at different times, right? Maybe people are working in 9 to 5. At the end of the day, they take their time to
Right.
reflect on their day. Whereas, real estate can be a 24/7 game, because you don't want to
It
miss that
is.
phone call,
You
right?
don't.
You don't want to
No.
miss that opportunity
No.
to succeed. And so I guess finding the
Yeah.
opportunities during your day to have these reflections.
Absolutely.
You talked there about growing, and I know we're talking about personal growth and development, but as the company won Sotheby's International Realty, the is growth still, I mean, that is an everyday consideration, or at 30 plus shops, is there now an element of
I think
slowing that down?
2025 is a year that I'd like to really pause,
Consolidate where you
consolidate where we are, and really empower the agents that we currently have.
are. Hmm.
One interesting fact about our business, it's kind of like an in and out game. I receive a monthly in and out report, and I would cry when people would leave. And I kind of still do if they mean a lot to me. I don't like to lose. So
Right.
if they left, there's, well, why did they leave? So at the end of the day, that in and out report is, you kind of have to start looking at the business that way. But I always say to my growth team, let's empower can continue to bring in new associates
Hmm.
and new advisors, right? Because inevitably some will leave. They'll leave the business, they'll go to another company, they'll things happen. But what about the ones that we have? How do we continue to build upon? Because we've already convinced them to join us.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
already here.
Uh-huh.
So what do you do to continue to make them stand out, to help them grow their business? So I think this year should be a year of a focus on the existing agents that we have,
Hmm.
empowering them, continue empowering them with great technology, great marketing support, and that they feel that that someone's got their back in helping them grow their business.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's up to them.
Hmm.
It's a business that you either have it in you or you don't. Sometimes I talk to people and I'll say, what are you doing in this business? Like, you have
Yeah.
no drive. You have absolutely no motivation. You're finding excuses for everything that goes wrong. Like, it's not going to work.
Mm.
You're in the wrong
It's
business.
so funny in our previous episode with Peter Rawlings, famous in the London agency market. He had the nickname Pistol Pete because he would fire so many people. But he said obviously he never enjoyed it. But he found he
Yeah.
was doing people a favor. He was like, real estate is not a game that you make a lot of money in if you're not willing to work and
You have
commit
to
to
be
it.
willing to work and commit.
And so he would say, look, this is a difficult conversation for us to have, but this is not the game for you.
No.
And
I
and
had
it's
that yesterday with an agent.
right.
And she, I tried to speak to her 2 or 3 times, and I just realized, I said, she's not ready. This isn't the time for her.
Yeah.
Kids are small. She's embarrassed. She doesn't want to talk. I said, what about just referring the business? She
Hmm.
says, well, I don't know, because I'm like, I
Yeah.
think you should take a leave of absence and rethink this and maybe revisit this
Mhm.
in a couple of
And
years.
and
And
who
that's
knows?
okay.
5, 10 years time, she comes back and
Exactly.
says, "Thank you, Mayi."
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
that was an important,
Yeah.
and it's not an easy conversation to have with
No, no,
people.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And so you're very much still active in. I'd like to understand as you're sort of day to day now in terms of One Sotheby's. Obviously, the things you've talked about, you're still hugely passionate about the industry, obviously about the brand. Um, your day to day now as founder and CEO, what does that sort of look like?
So I've tried to, as to the best of my ability, um, focus, get myself out of like day to day,
Hmm.
and let my exceptional leadership team
Yeah.
handle a lot of the day to day.
Yeah.
We do have calls, leadership calls, that we all get briefed on what's happening in all the different markets. And I think it's important for me to still be on those calls and kind of just get a gist, because it gives me a perspective on what's going on in the entire company.
Hmm.
So I try to, for me, agent retention is extremely important. So I try to connect with as many agents as I can. And I think in 2025, one of my goals is to be more present for them in helping them, with their marketing, with their business plan, they have managers that they go to for all of this.
Hmm.
But at some point, if they feel they need to reach out to me, I want to be there. I want to be able to network more. I want to speak more to them in smaller groups, like have think tank groups, like just I do with my brain trust, like what can we do and how can
Yeah.
we help you, and have more contact with them. So I think my day to day is just, I don't even know, it's like
It's as it comes, right?
as
And
it comes,
and it's
like you just
building.
pivot.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to pivot.
Yeah.
You kind of have your plan for the week, and then I'm also involved, like today I'm going to a fundraiser, and then there's philanthropy, and there's like they've asked me to go speak at a the last week I went to speak, which was so fulfilling and so rewarding,
Hmm.
to an organization that's called Women of Tomorrow.
Hmm.
And there was a group of 30 young girls in an auditorium that I told my story. And if I'm able to change one of those girls or two of those girls and give them hope and give them the hope, I guess,
Yeah.
and 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 the encouragement that they need to understand that things don't always come easy, and that you can make something of yourself and you can succeed.
Yeah.
That is very fulfilling for me. So I want to do a little bit more of that, but kind of not just giving financially, but hands-on, like
Yeah.
where do I make an impact and how do I make an impact in this community that's been so wonderful to us, to myself, to my family, and to everyone that works under, at One Sotheby's.
So that's an interesting avenue to explore, because I know that you're very active in this in your sort of philanthropical work in the community. Where does that drive come from? I mean, now that One Sotheby's is an established and growing. We've talked about maintaining is obviously a full-time job in
It's a
its own
full-time
right,
job.
but that drive then to take time out of that side of things and to invest, like you say, not just financially, but with your time and your emotion into these projects and charities.
Where does it come
Where
from?
does that come from? Is that you just said that it was this city has given you so much, right? So it feels like a debt that you have to pay, or again, this is something that you
No,
had within you. This is
no, it comes from gratitude.
right.
And I think that if you're in a s- if you're operating out of a space of gratitude, giving back in some way is almost like an obligation.
Right.
It's like when I pray or I'm grateful to God for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon me. Like, I think that giving a little bit of myself, my time, is more valuable than any amount of money. Like, I don't even want to just give money. I want to give money, but I want to do it with some sort of involvement
Yeah.
in something.
Hmm.
And I kind of don't like a lot of frivolous things. Like, I don't like frivolous luncheons and,
Yeah. Okay.
things that are like society based that are just like to climb up or become. No,
No.
I've never been that person. I've
Mm.
never had time to be that person. So I really kind of like more that part of just, you know, like when we're involved with United Way, that does so much for this local community. And, when we do our book drive, like how do we do that? Now with all the things that happened in California with the fires, you know, being proactive and actually sending out emails and collecting clothing and sending it over there and helping those that are in need at that time. So I think that's where I'd like to head in the
I
future.
was going to say, I wouldn't
Yeah.
ever want to suggest that you're going to be taking a back seat in real estate, but is this something that you feel it will become, your life will be more weighted towards this at some stage?
I think so. I think it will be more weighted on this.
Hmm.
Um,
Because it's important to you,
it
right?
is
It's yeah.
important to me. It's important to give back. It's
Hmm.
important. And I think giving back really starts even with your family.
Hmm.
How are you showing up for them?
Hmm.
How are you showing up for your children, and
Yeah.
how are you making time to be there for all the people that, and even your coworkers, and have you taken time to be with them? And sometimes I think that I don't do enough of that
Mhm.
because I'm running all the time and I'm so busy that I do want to show up for people a little bit more.
Is this something that you've reflected on more recently, or I don't want to say felt guilty about, but through your, because you've had to work incredibly hard for an awfully,
Long time.
a long time, many, many years of building, right?
Yeah.
So was this something that you were conscious of as well when you were starting the business, and now you have maybe more of an opportunity
I've always had that in my heart. Like, I remember way back in the day,
Mm.
I would always, like, during the holidays, I would take my kids. Back then it was Toys R Us, and we'd fill carts and carts with toys, and we'd go to the churches and we'd give them out
Yeah. Oh, wow.
in
Okay.
different little, in Little Haiti, or, in impoverished communities, that we would hand these toys out,
Mhm.
or to a local church in that area. So that's always been in my heart. But I think as I get older, more mature, and
Mhm.
and start playing a different role within our company, I think I would like to be more and more that person, and even a role model for those that that are within my organization that I could mentor or help, or that my story somehow inspires them to be able to reach for the stars,
Mm.
and know that, if you're willing to endure some hardships along the way and ride that wave when it's going to knock you off,
Mhm.
I'm there. I want to be there to help them.
And are you conscious of the fact that your words are incredibly impactful for people who are at Sotheby's, who I don't want to say there's a reverence for the great Mayi de la Vega, but
Oh,
it's this idea of that maybe it does carry more weight when you speak to somebody about look, you can do this, and not everybody can necessarily build a One Sotheby's, but you can drive and you can be more successful in your game.
I'm not really aware of it, but I have to share with you this story. This morning I woke up and Tammy Fami, who's the executive vice president of global, for the brand.
Mhm.
She's like, it's Philip White and it's Tammy.
Yeah.
So Philip White is our CEO, and she's like next in command, and
Okay.
and our chief marketing officer Brad Nelson, whom I'm extremely close and grateful to all three of them
Mhm.
tremendously. I woke up this morning and there's this beautiful message from her saying that she was at an opening in an office in Pennsylvania, and this Cuban gentleman came up to her and said that I had spoken to him in Vancouver about how he could build his business and how he just had to stick it out and how he had to, and those words were so encouraging to him that this year he made the top 10 in his company.
Oh, wow.
And he shared that story with her, and that was like the first message I read this morning, and I was so incredibly profoundly grateful
Yeah.
to her for sharing that with me. I had no idea that I had made an impact in anybody's life, because I don't look at myself that way. I just look at myself as this hardworking Cuban American girl that's determined to keep going.
It's good to know that as well, because I mean we as we finish this at the end, we'll talk about advice you have for other people. But I think it's worth noting, and I'm sure you're aware of this. You can give advice until you're blue in the face, and the advice is generally pretty much the same because it's the advice that works. But there are people who either take it on, or there are people who it just doesn't really land, or there's just people who just aren't willing to put it in. And I know that this is anathema for people who have driven on these values, to then have people not take on that advice. It can be quite frustrating to see people and say, these are even just the small changes you need to make to then start building, and
Right.
for people to then see them not doing these things.
I think you're right. I think all leaders, whether it's a world leader, whether it's a CEO of a company or a founder or president or anybody in an executive position that succeeds, there's certain amounts of qualities that you possess in order to get there.
Mhm.
And we know what those are, we've talked about them during today's interview. I think that there is a new podcast, a new book that I'm reading,
Mhm.
and a new podcast that really kind of hit home with me, to your point about people not taking that advice. Sometimes it's frustrating.
Mhm.
It's more frustrating with the family than it is probably with the agents or people that I really love. But not everybody's going to take your advice,
Yeah.
because everybody has different parameters and different goals and different. So what resonates with you what resonates with me
Yeah. Right. I
may
see.
not resonate with you. So my advice may be irrelevant to you.
I see.
So,
That's fair. That is fair.
but this book that I'm reading is by Mel Robbins, and it's called Let Them, the Let Them Theory. Let them. Let them not take your advice. Let them do whatever they want,
Yeah.
because life has lessons,
Yeah.
and you will learn those lessons along the way. So you just have to be a conduit, like for people to come to if they want.
Mhm.
And if they don't want, it's okay. Let them. And it just has, I haven't finished the book, but it's really pretty. It's kind of like, it's something,
Mhm.
but the way she verbalized it and the way she's talking about it is so relevant to people. And just let them,
Yeah.
because you can't
Release yourself
change
from
people.
this. Yeah.
And I think the message is, we can't change people.
Yeah.
We can try to help them. We can try to be mentors. We can try to be the best version of ourselves always.
Mhm.
And that's what we aspire to be.
I mean, it certainly it makes sense. Mine, there is that sense of, you can provide advice, and then if this principle of let them, you release yourself from
You
the
release yourself
obligation
of
to
the
like
obligation.
make sure that they deliver on it. It's like, here you go. If you like it, have it. If not, um, I'm intrigued to know. It, we've covered the purchasing of the license and the complications that came with that, and the great successes it's delivered as well. Is there one day that stands out? If we were going to remove the actual, when the when the license was granted to you, is there one day that stands out as being a day that was a real red letter day for you, either personally or whether it was within real estate or outside? I want to mention this because I know you won't. I know that you were a receiver a medal from the Red Cross, a humanitarian award from the Red Cross of America, which, I mean, that's got to stand out. Were you aware that this was something that you were going to be given?
I wasn't aware that I was going to be given that, but I all those awards and all those, I served on the board of trustees of FIU, and that was a great accomplishment for me to see how public universities work and what I could contribute, and being a part of this incredible board was just really amazing. And now I'm serving on the board of United Way, and we have an incredible the CEO of United Way is a woman that is driven and has really changed the dynamics of it, and I see her and her goal to make United Way such a great organization again, and so that really is very exciting for me to see that. Um, I think all of those things. I think anything that goes in the light of helping others, or but it's never enough for me. Like, I feel that I could be doing so much more, which is why I want to focus going forward on that.
Do I need to
Um,
tell you that maybe you couldn't? But I don't know. I don't know. That's I'll just leave. I'll let them.
just let them. But I think a moment that will always stand out for me is, I hate to go back to Sotheby's International Realty, but I think the day that I signed on that dotted line,
Mm.
and I guaranteed my life and my children and my inheritance and everything. I felt that was a huge accomplishment for me, and that's a moment that will always stand out. That I was the lucky one. I was the one they chose to
Well, it was
represent
a
them,
great choice in the end, right? It
and
worked out.
I think they have not regretted their choice. So that day is still and will be always for me very, very special.
Oh, I can only imagine. We as we finish up, we have one question that we like to end on, which is people who watch this and have the opportunity. We've talked about, trying to pass on messages and teaching people the way to do things. But if there was advice that you could give to somebody who's either just starting out in the industry, or maybe it's about people who are managing their own brokerages, or is there any advice that you would like to offer to anyone at this stage if they're watching?
I think always remain humble, meaning we as individuals need to surround ourselves with people that know more than we do.
Okay.
Surround yourself with people within the industry that can give you advice. Surround yourself. Don't think you have all the answers, because you don't. I think a great leader is someone that listens.
Right.
A great leader is someone that takes advice. You can later do with it what you want, but you need to learn to listen. It's great to be a good listener, because you don't have all the answers. And there's people that have had experiences that you haven't. And that's what I love about my brain trusts, and
Yeah.
other colleagues that I have, my market leaders and other people that I share great stories with, is be humble in knowing that you don't have all the answers. Continue to work hard, continue to be resilient, continue to understand that life throws curveballs all the time. And just be ready there for that next opportunity, because they do come your way.
Yeah.
And just never give up. Just keep following your heart. Keep listening to that little inner voice, which some people say it's like emotional intelligence, or having that wherewithal to go within and listen to yourself, listen to those around you, and you know, and just go for it.
And that's you've continuously made a point of surrounding yourself with good people. Has been that's a continuous theme. Yeah.
Continuous theme to have mentors, to have people that you look up to read and explore. And I think one of the things that I love about this business and I love about life is all the wonders there are to discover. There's never a dull moment. There's always a new book to read, a new story to have, a new foreign policy to learn about,
Yeah.
a new negotiation and how people negotiate, just negotiating styles in itself. There's so many books that have been written on negotiation, and everybody has a different take on it. So understanding all this is really, really important.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we could do a whole podcast just on that. But I really feel we've taken enough of your time today, and I
Thank
just
you
want to
so
say
much.
thank you.
Thank you so
Your
much.
story is incredible, but also
Thank
what
you.
you've built and created, and
Thank you.
I'm sure people watching this will take
Thank
a lot
you.
from it. So
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.